Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And JN Money.
From abroad to yard.
Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctor's Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctor's Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Ort Connor.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. O land of soft, fresh breezes and verdant trees, so fair. Today is the 1st of June, 2022, right here in the beautiful Cayman Islands. We hope and we trust that everyone had a restful, peaceful, enjoyable evening. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, whether you're a pedestrian, a cyclist, or operating any type of motorized vehicle, again, we urge you to please, who is celebrating a birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday, or if you celebrated one over the past few days, a belated happy birthday to you as well. Those of you who have lost loved ones, again, we want to extend our sincere condolences to you. We hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these extremely challenging times, and that the memories of your loved ones will be a blessing to you as well. Those of you who are ill and are either at home or at an overseas facility, we wish you a speedy recovery as well. I'm going to dispense with the remainder of my opening comments for now, just to remind you that the opposition will be on at 8:15 after the news. Meanwhile, we have Minister Kenneth Bryan, Minister for Tourism and Transport. We have him on the phone line, so our phone lines will be closed for now because we want to accommodate him during this period as well. Minister Bryan, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC, and good morning to your listening audience, and good morning to that lovely voice behind the radio. It's a pleasure to be on the show today. Hopefully I'll get a little chance within the short period we have to give the public a little update on how things are going in respect to tourism, and also some travels that I'll be taking next week in hopes to find some new solutions for transportation in this country. So that's what I'm on for today, and I know we have a lot to cover in a very short period of time.
Okay, go right ahead.
All right, OC, I'm happy to say that, from a tourism perspective, things are looking up. Our projections, and when we budgeted for this tourism year, was at about 40%. And at the current trajectory, we're looking that we're probably going to end up about 70%, which is good. We could be a whole lot better, but much of the restrictions that we have in respect to, the travel documents and mask mandates, and you have to be vaccinated before you come to the island, still creates a little bit of hurdles for some percentage of the traveling stakeholders across the world. Still many people who are not vaccinated or just don't like the hassle of mask wearing for their own personal choices, which is causing us to be a little bit behind most Caribbean countries. But the good news is that we're ahead of the game in respect to where we had projected us to be.
Okay.
In respect to cruise is doing very, very well as well. We've just signed a pretty amazing agreement with the Florida Caribbean Cruise Line Association to be one of 3 Caribbean islands to have an exclusive presence at all of their events for the rest of the year. And this opportunity gives us a chance to speak directly with many of the travel agents to expose Cayman Islands as a destination from a cruising perspective. It also allows us to work with the member lines on finding unique ways to manage our guests rather than having them all down at the 7 Mile Beach. Create new experiences that can be more Caymanian and authentic, and spread and manage the amount of people across the island more evenly, so more Caymanians can make more money. Obviously, it gives us the opportunity for training for Caymanians and find out what funds are available through this association. The Cruise Line Association is a pretty large one, and not often we recognize how large it is. The Florida Caribbean Cruise Line Association actually makes up 90% of the cruise industry across the world, which is pretty large. And for us to have a front and center seat in front of all the member lines, their owners, their executives, to tell them and sell them the Cayman tourism product is a very, very important thing. Normally, other Caribbean islands are on a monthly and yearly basis are begging for people to come to their jurisdictions. We have, because Cayman is a very sought after Caribbean island, we've had the opportunity now to have more exclusive discussions with them and talk about how we manage this process for cruise. As we know, the public wants it to be more in a better managed way, so that we ensure Caymanians make more money and that we can not have to be overloaded with cruise passengers on our streets. That's another big thing. In respect to our revenues, we're looking pretty good. We're expected to make $381 million US from visitor spend for the year of 2022. Now that's down from $700 million US in 2019, but 2019 was the best year recorded in our tourism visitors spend since we started tourism in the Cayman Islands. Now that's going to give us a bit of a hit on our consumption because we know that we are a consumption-based economy. So there's not a lot of food, alcohol, and all the various other things that are consumed by humans because we're going to still be down based on the visitor levels. But in respect to where we had hoped and planned to be, we're well ahead of that, and that is good news. In respect to once we started cruise from the mid-March, our cruise numbers had continued to increase, and the same for our airlift. We, from January to February to March, April to May, we continued to double and double and double our airlift. And I'm happy to say that for the month of May, we hit up to 80% of our airlift numbers of 2019. That's a pretty big hurdle to jump over, considering the fact that our restrictions are still in place and many customers are still talking about the travel document being a bit of a hurdle, and saying that, that's some of the reasons why some people are not coming, as well as the vaccinations to individuals. And our government is obviously going to be continuing to look at that because even though we can't quantify what percentage we're losing as a result of that, we know that it is a percentage, and that the Cayman people, as well as the rest of the world, is slowly coming to that place where they're taking their own responsibility, even though we know COVID is in our midst here and across the world. The good news is that recent reports, even though we had a spike a couple of weeks ago, that the numbers are coming down. So that's a good thing, and gives us, as government, more data and information for us to make decisions. Because I know many people are talking about the withdrawal of masks. Many Caymanians are talking about the travel document not being necessary. And then you have some Caymanians who want to travel who are not vaccinated and don't want to have the quarantine. So the big question is now, do people who are not vaccinated need to be quarantined because you both can carry the virus regardless? So that's a question that we have to ask ourselves, not only from a tourism perspective, but for the freedom in travel for Caymanians who want to go abroad, or Caymanians overseas who want to come home, who have made the personal choice not to be vaccinated. I want to clearly say, though, I support vaccinations. I support boosters. I've been boosted. I think it's the best means of protection in respect to the virus, even though it's not as severe as it once was. It's always best to do so.
When are the regulations due to be reviewed again, sir?
Close to the end of the month. They're until the end of this month. Today is the 1st of June. So we extended them just last week for one more month. So in about 3 weeks, we'll be sitting down having that conversation again. But I must say that the pressure is on in respect to us to make some changes because, as I say, from a tourism perspective, that's the call, that's the thing that's causing us not to be ahead of the game like other Caribbean islands in our region who have pulled away all of those restrictions outside of the testing before you come.
Right.
And that's one that
It's making us less competitive then.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So, but it is something that we recognize as a government that we have chosen to do in the best interest of the safety of the country. I want to make sure it's clear that we're not past this pandemic, and COVID is still risky, particularly for those people who have immune system disorders. Right. It could be a big deal for them, but a cold could be the same issue for them as well. That doesn't mean that a person who has a cold should be exposed to some of these restrictions. So it's something that we seriously have to discuss, not only from a tourism perspective, but for many Caymanians who want to travel. I'm starting to hear it more and more at home rather from the tourism industry. So hopefully, I personally, as minister, support taking away those restrictions. But as you know, it is a democratic process, and there is 12 of us in caucus, and we go forward based on the advice given to us from the medical experts. I must say that the medical experts are getting closer and closer to that point where we can pull away some of these restrictions, and we're in the discussion stage about talking about withdrawals of the travel document, at least for Caymanians, because the question is, can you really say to a Caymanian that they won't be able to come to the Cayman Islands if they're not vaccinated? And the question is no, but what is there sound advice now for or sound reasoning to keep a Caymanian who is in quarantine because they're not vaccinated when the risks are practically the same? So these are some decisions we have to make, and I think that much of those things were held off due to the fact that we had a little spike, but based on the anecdotal evidence that I have, that things are starting to peak back down again, but we continue to keep a close eye on that. But I think that we may have some changes at the next review, which is going to be in about two to 3 weeks from now.
Okay.
So in respect to other things happening in the world of tourism, I'm really, really, really happy to announce that the Ministry and Department of Tourism has partnered with the Caribbean Tourism Organization to host a high-level regional conference here in the Cayman Islands. Now, what does that mean? And what is the Caribbean Tourism Organization? It's an organization made up of all the Caribbean islands to talk about tourism-related matters, because tourism is such a key business for the Caribbean. It's probably the number one product outside of financial services, but financial services is only for a couple of the Caribbean islands that use it as their second or first pillar. So it's a pretty big deal, and they have a conference every year. So the Cayman Islands was selected as the location to have the conference this year, and that will be held on the 12th to the 15th of September. And we have invited many stakeholders from ministers. All the Caribbean tourism ministers will be here, senior executives from all the major airlines and transportation industries, as well as international delegates. I'm going to go out on a limb here. We haven't confirmed it yet, but I trust the Lord, and I'll knock on wood to say that Miss Mia Motley will probably be here to give special contributions from a sustainability perspective, as well as we're going to have some international media and regional media here. So it's a pretty big deal to have this conference, because it continues to show that the Cayman Islands is in a solid position as one of the key players in the regional tourism arena. We have always been the leader in many other things, whether it's in our development of our democracy, whether it's in financial services. And I want to take an attitude that we have to compete with financial services. I don't want to be second to financial services anymore. I think Cayman has so much to offer in respect to tourism that we want to start to bring up our game and make sure that Caymanians get more opportunities. And this conference is an opportunity to start exposing who we are from a tourism perspective and what Cayman Islands has to offer.
Okay.
So that's some big deal.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Minister, I'm going to interrupt you there. I know you want to talk about your upcoming trip to Barbados as well. We're going to take this quick commercial break, and when we return, we will give you an opportunity to pass additional information on to us. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas. The 1980s offered a decade of monumental progress as the Cayman Islands built upon its previous few decades of prosperity. In 1981, Northwood Prison was opened, followed by the Law School in 1982. Also in 1982, the Education Department held the first National Children's Festival of the Arts, and the islands celebrated the 150th anniversary of parliamentary government. In 1983, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II visited, being the first by a reigning monarch. The turtle farm was also purchased from government, and the first phase of the F.J. Harquail Cultural Center opened. In official business, the Water Authority law came into effect, and the CI Audit Office was established. In 1984, the Cayman National Cultural Foundation law was passed, and Britannia, Cayman's first golf course, was opened.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vampt Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vampt Motors, Walkers Road.
JN Money, money touchdown. Send the money now. Reach wow. You say you need some money. JN Money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use your money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
Are you feeling sick, but don't feel ill enough to go to the doctor? Ask your pharmacist for advice. Here at West Bay Pharmacy, our pharmacists have been trained to offer helpful, easy-to-understand advice on the treatment of everyday minor ailments for yourself and all the family. Anything from headaches, cough and sore throat, to cold sores, our pharmacists will know when medical help is needed and will not hesitate to refer you to your doctor if your symptoms demand it. Like doctors, our pharmacists have a professional code, which means all personal information you give them will be treated in the strictest confidence. Visit us today at West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're going straight back to Minister Bryan, who's on the line. Mr. Bryan.
Good morning again, OC. I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to get straight to it. I want to let the public know that I will be traveling to Barbados on Sunday to visit a conference. It's a 10th Annual International Roads Federation Caribbean Regional Conference in Bridgetown, Barbados from the 7th to the 10th. I leave on Sunday. Hope to get into Barbados Sunday night and meet with officials on the 8th, which would be the Monday, to go over some legislation for the transportation system over there and experience the transportation system. Barbados has one of the best energy efficient transportation systems. And as you know, the government's mandate is to move forward in a more clean energy approach in respect to transportation, more reliable one. They currently have a tender out for that. My delegation that will be going with me is obviously my chief officer, the minister for of the Ministry of Tourism and Transport.
We're getting an echo. We're getting an echo from you.
Okay, not sure why.
Okay.
Is that better?
Much better. Yes.
Okay. The delegation going with me is my chief officer, Mr. Strand Borden, the director for tourism, who is also currently the chair for the Public Transportation Board, as well as Mr. Kim Ramoon, who is a senior public transport inspector. It's important that I take some of our technocrats and civil servants who will be able to deliver what we learn over there moving forward in our new transportation plans in the new year coming up in 2023. The IRF conference is a vital gathering point for regional top transportation decision makers and professionals to network with each other, exchange experiences, discuss regional case studies and policies and recommendations so we can come up with innovative ideas and international insights together. It is imperative that the Cayman Islands has a presence at this conference, because only then can we engage with stakeholders and heads of government to acquire these types of ideas of how other jurisdictions have been doing their transportation system, where the successes are, where the failings are, so we don't have to go through those processes again. As I said before, I'm committed to bringing in a new transportation system as soon as we get our strategic transportation recommendation brought back to us, which we hope to have at the end of this year. My intention is to meet with the transportation minister while I'm over there, examine all their legislation. I would also like to announce that the UK will be working in partnership with the Transport Unit and the Ministry of Transport to discuss our new way forward once we get back our RFP on the long-term strategy for transportation. Some of the discussions that we're going to be talking about while we're there is the infrastructure investment and innovation, meaning how do we fund our new transportation system moving forward, the financing around it. That is going to be very important, and it's going to be something I'm going to have to convince my colleagues that once we come up with the model, that it's going to probably be a very high bill. But in order to affect traffic in a positive way by reducing people in cars on the road every day. They need to have a reliable system that is energy efficient. Another couple of things that we're going to be talking about while we're there is road safety. As you can tell, we've been having a lot of problems on the roads in respect to drinking and driving and just inappropriate driving, period, as per the law, which has caused, unfortunately, a few deaths recently and some serious harm to others. Also, we're going to be speaking about the COVID effect on road transportation. How does it affect the bus services? Are people less likely to take the bus as a result, and how do you manage that? Also, road asset management, because if you want to put a proper transportation system in place, you have to have the infrastructure necessary, whether it's the bus turnoffs and the like. So we're going to be discussing a lot of these things, examine some of the agents across the region that have built transportation systems in the small island states like the Cayman Islands, and meet and network and find out maybe the next potential company that can come in and give us that guidance, because we're committed to putting in a new transportation system. And what better place to do it than in Barbados, which has the top leading transportation system in the Caribbean and is well known for it. So, again, as you heard me talk about earlier, the Caribbean Tourism Organization Conference will be happening here, and we're hoping to have guest Mia Motley here in the Cayman Islands for that conference in September.
Right.
And where we're going to for the conference is her hometown. We had hoped to have an opportunity to sit with her, but unfortunately her travel schedule doesn't allow at the time of the conference. But I will be meeting with some of her officials to confirm her visit in September to talk about sustainability for small island states in the region. So it's really exciting times for my Ministry of Tourism and Transportation and the Cayman Islands as a whole. We're slowly getting past the pandemic and getting back to where we were, being leaders in financial services and tourism. We're slowly trying to get back to that place. And I think that in the next couple of months, we'll have a lot more news and information to announce to the public that my ministry has been working really, really hard. And the results are starting to show, and I want to thank my team for that. But we just want to keep people up to date as to where we are. The numbers from the tourism perspective are looking good. We're really, really trying to work to see if those restrictions in respect to COVID regulations can be lifted to be prepared for a good, strong 2023 season, which normally starts, not from a calendar year perspective, but from a seasonal perspective, usually starts in November. So,
yes.
Exciting times.
Excellent. You still have 1 minute or so to go. Any additional points that you want to raise, Minister?
Yeah, well, not only to say that, I'm really excited about the transport part, and I'm really happy to have Mr. Kim Ramon, who's a senior public transport inspector, to come along with this, because we're going to need a lead person to take our new vision forward. Obviously, as a minister, on behalf of the Park Administration, I'm only the policy director. I'm directing the government's policy moving forward. So it's really, really good to have the transportation unit come along, because once we transition to a new transportation system, we're going to need, because it's going to be a major reform, and I want to let the public know that, and even those independent bus drivers know that, because we're going to change our model of public transportation. And we're going to need somebody there to understand the vision, learn what we learn, understand how we're going to formulate it, and implement it. So I'm really excited. Mr. Kim Ramon is a long-standing civil servant, works really, really hard at the public transportation unit. So I hope to come back on the show with him and my team to discuss what we learned and give you a snapshot into the future of transportation in the Cayman Islands in respect to public transportation.
Certainly look forward to that. We look forward to that, definitely.
All right. God bless you, OC, and God bless the Cayman Islands. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, and safe travels to you and your team as well, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Folks, we've reached the top of the hour of the 8 o'clock news. When we return after the news, we will have the members of the opposition in the studio with us, so please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time now by Foster's is 8 o'clock.
It's time to start preparing for this year's hurricane season, and Foster's has the essentials you need to weather a storm.
Stock up on canned goods, non-perishable foods, water, health and first aid items, pet supplies, flashlights, and other hurricane kit essentials.
Start preparing now using our online hurricane guide and emergency checklist. Just head to fosters.ky for more info. You can also follow us at Foster's K-Man on Facebook and Instagram for helpful tips throughout the season.
Foster's, better because we care.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. It's officially hurricane season, and predictions suggest the Caribbean will see above-average activity, with the University of Colorado calling for 19 named storms, 9 of those hurricanes.
I hope everyone will have listened to hazard management and their annual appeal to everyone in our community to make sure that they have their hurricane plan already set up and prepared, including non-perishable goods and other elements of that plan.
His Excellency, the Governor Martin Roper, says in his annual hurricane message that this can be an anxious time for the country, but residents, while making their own preparations, can take confidence in Cayman's, quote, excellent disaster response. This includes hazard management, the police service, the fire service, the community emergency response teams, the Red Cross, and the Cayman Islands Regiment, among others. For tips on how best to prepare for the 2022 hurricane season, visit caymanprepared.gov.ky. And speaking of hurricane season, the forecast continues to call for gloomy weather over the next few days, with the National Weather Service issuing a fresh severe weather bulletin this morning. Forecaster Avalon Porter.
Cloudiness along with scattered thunder showers are expected over the Cayman area for the next 24 hours as a large complex area of low pressure develops over the northwest Caribbean. This area of low pressure is expected to drift towards the northeast over the next couple of days as showers and thunder showers spread across the Cayman area. Showers over the next couple of days may be locally heavy at times and may lead to flooding of low-lying areas.
The Yucatan Channel extending to the extreme northwest Caribbean has been marked by the National Hurricane Center as an area of interest for potential development of a tropical disturbance over the next 5 days. Regardless of an organized disturbance being formed, severe weather conditions are likely over the next 3 to 4 days across Cayman, and residents are urged to keep it locked right here to Radio Cayman to monitor the progress as forecast conditions can change over the next few days. And water sports operators with expired wildlife interaction zone permits who apply for a new license before July 31st will get their fees waived. Radio Cayman's April Cummings reports.
The Cayman Islands government says the aim is to support the economic recovery of operators impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. In order to operate in Stingray City and Sandbar, the 2 wildlife interaction zones, commonly referred to as WIZ, commercial vessels must possess a valid permit and display the new purple 2023 decals issued by the National Conservation Council. Minister of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency, the Honorable Premier Wayne Panton, says the temporary waiver will benefit up to 270 vessels whose owners, operators, and employees have been significantly affected by the economic impacts of the pandemic. This waiver will only apply to applicants who previously held a WIZ permit that expired between the 30th of January 2020 and the 30th of January 2022. Operators must apply for their permit by the 31st of July this year in order to be eligible for the waiver. In a press release issued last night, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development advised the total revenue amount being waived is not expected to have a material impact on the government's 2021 and 2022 financial performance, nor compliance with the principles of responsible financial management. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
For more information, head to doe.ky. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Jerry Smith. Russia has accused the US of pouring oil on the fire with its decision to provide Ukraine with advanced rocket systems superior to ones Moscow has. The Kremlin spokesman also rejected Kiev's assurance that the weapons wouldn't be used on targets in Russia. The new systems have a much longer range than artillery already delivered and are more accurate than their Russian equivalents. The head of the Severodonetsk administration says Ukrainian fighters are putting up a strong defense and attempting to dislodge Russian invaders. Alexander Stryuk said the defenders only held a fifth of Severodonetsk, but added that there was still hope the city, the last major one in Ukrainian hands in the region of Luhansk, would not fall. The Russian energy giant Gazprom says its gas exports to countries outside the former Soviet Union dropped by more than a quarter during the first 5 months of the year. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has seen a number of EU countries cut their imports. BBC News.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Refilling and transferring your prescriptions have never been this easy. Simply go to healthcarepharmacy.ky and follow the easy directions from your desktop, mobile device, or tablet. All you need to do is pop into Healthcare Pharmacy in Grand Harbor to collect your prescription. They're open 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 10 till 6 on Sundays and public holidays. No waiting in line, no wasting your lunch hour, no stress. Just easy online prescription refills and transfers from the pharmacy that has been caring about your health for 25 years. Call 947-8900 to speak to a pharmacist or go to healthcarepharmacy.ky and make life easy.
Excuse me, I noticed you from afar.
Really? Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating?
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory breaded, frozen and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger licking good.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Britcade, where people come first.
Pleasant good morning. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 83 degrees. Relative humidity is 83%. The barometric pressure is 29.88 inches and rising. The wind is out of the east-southeast at 6 knots. Overnight low temperature was 81 degrees. Synopsis indicate cloudiness along with scattered thunder showers expected for the next 24 hours as a large complex area of low pressure develops over the northwestern Caribbean. Satellite images show scattered clouds and thunder showers north of the Cayman area. Forecast for today calling for partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 40% chance of showers and possible thunder, and temperatures will rise to the mid to upper 80s. Winds will be east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Tonight, cloudy to overcast skies with a 60% chance of showers and thunder, and showers will be locally heavy at times. Temperatures will fall to the mid-70s tonight. Winds will be east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts. Seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. Today's high tide will occur this morning at 9:53, low tide this afternoon at 4:32, and a high tide again tonight at 11:47. The sun will set this evening at 6:59 and will rise tomorrow morning at 5:47, and the outlook is calling for continued cloudy and rainy conditions through Friday as the broad area of low pressure continues to develop over the western Caribbean.
Head east on Cove Road. Sharp left on Church Street. Sharper left. No, your other left. Did I say left? Nope, you missed it. Okay, I'm lost.
With money-saving bundling options for home and motor, we're like a GPS that doesn't steer you wrong. CG Britcade. Good like that.
Let's stop and ask for directions.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Britcade, where people come first.
Good morning, everyone. Hello? Hello? Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Okay, I see we have just about everyone, and of course Tom drops off, as per usual. Let's just wait a minute here. He always comes right back, and we're almost ready, and... oh, whoever's dog that is, please go on mute. Why won't it let me share my screen? Okay, looks like we're ready to start.
We're like a video conference with no technical issues. CG Brit K. Good like that.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Good morning once again. Let's take a look what's happening on the roads. From the West Bay four-way stop, traffic is moderate, and traffic moderate as well on the West Bay Road in front of the Ritz. Busy traffic coming off of Bobby Thompson Way and off of Agnes Way. Crew Road, steady traffic heading to Georgetown. Light to moderate traffic flow on Owen Roberts Drive, and traffic is flowing moderately on Northstown Road. And steady traffic coming off of the Esterly Tibbetts Highway. Schoolhouse Road traffic is flowing moderately, as well as on Godfrey Dixon Way and Eastern Avenue. That's the very latest on your traffic. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12 o'clock. We'll give you another traffic report. Remember, click it or ticket. Drive safe.
Subway is serving up a special new sauce, bursting with flavor in every bite. The new Savory Collection is a tropical sweet and spicy sauce made with a combination of spices, habanero peppers, thyme, onion, black pepper, ginger, citrus juices, and molasses.
So good.
Wow.
Sensational. Delicious.
Subway's Savory Collection pairs perfectly with our oven roasted chicken or steak sub. Savor the flavor. For a limited time, only at Subway. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
The Health Services Authority's new pharmacy is now open at the Smith Road Medical Center. The new location features a large, comfortable waiting area and ticketing system to improve the patient experience. All uncollected prescriptions and refill requests previously submitted will now be available for collection at the Smith Road Pharmacy. Request your refills online at hsa.ky via WhatsApp 925-6532 or call 244-2715. For more information about our pharmacy hours, visit hsa.ky.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. As promised, we have in the studio with us Honorable Roy McTaggart, Leader of the Opposition and Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hugh as well. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome back to For the Record.
Thank you, Hussein. Good morning to you and good morning to the Cayman Islands. It's was a bit of a bleaky day outside when I was driving down.
Yes,
a little rain this morning. Looks like there's more to come later this week for the Jubilee celebrations.
Yes.
But I think no matter what, the bleakness of it, the celebrations will continue. Yep. And looking forward to the extra long weekend as well and to those celebrations. So say good morning to everyone.
Okay, good morning, OC. Good to be back again. And I was going to apologize for not being my normal lively self because the weather just was moving extra slow this morning. But yeah, no, I ask everyone to be safe out there under the weather conditions, especially on your commute in. Be patient, take your time on the roads, and also, bear in mind and get prepared for probably about 4 to 5 inches of rain over the next 2 or 3 days. Those in the low-lying areas. Take your precautions and prepare your yards, etc. for it. So Otherwise, enjoy the nice cool weather.
Yes, I was looking at the Tradewinds newspaper, and published on the 9th of June, 1966, somewhere around about the 5th of June, we had a system that developed off the coast of around Honduras, and we were just missed by Hurricane Alma in 1966 in early June as well. So that was extremely interesting. So, gentlemen, what's been happening in your neck of the woods recently, and what can we look forward to today?
You want to kick it off? Or
No, you go right ahead.
Okay. Well, OC, I think the main thing we wanted to have a discussion on this morning is, I think everyone now is aware of the fact that Parliament has been summoned, and that is to start on Wednesday, the 8th of June. Mm-hmm. So that's next week, Wednesday. The opposition have been quite busy as well, preparing for this meeting, and we have submitted a number of parliamentary questions, which we hope will be dealt with during that sitting, and of course we are subject to the government getting answers to those questions and turning them into the House in order to get them onto the order paper for any particular day of the meeting of the House. So, in addition to those parliamentary questions, we've also submitted yesterday submitted two private members' motions, which we shall get into in some detail, I think, during the conversation.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Apart from that, there are a number of bills that are I think, scheduled to come before the House next week. Number of them that have been released for and have been in public domain for some time now. And I think it's important that we, all remember too that this is now the first meeting, not just of this calendar year, but it's been more than 6 months since we've had a meeting of the House, and so I'm hopefully this one will be very productive for us in terms of getting through the legislation and all of the business that we have at this point. That I shouldn't say at this point, but all the business that we have filed and are prepared and ready to lead forward with next week, Thursday, when we have opposition day in the House.
Okay. Now, as far as bills that are coming forward by the government, have you been notified of those already as well in terms of?
Yes, sir. They've all been exposed, and we've all had the green bills for some time. If you want me to, OC, I can take some time and we can go through these.
Sure, that would be helpful.
Yeah. The first one I have here is the Public Recorder Amendment Bill. And what this bill seeks to do is very simply to amend the Public Recorder Act 2010 revision in order to provide for a 50% reduction in fees payable by older persons.
Okay.
So it's part of that older persons bill where commitments are made, certainly by previous government to give reductions in fees to for older persons. So it seems to be specific for older persons for the recording of a deed poll by the public recorder.
Okay.
So registrations of deed polls will for older persons will be reduced by 50%. Now, I mean, there's nothing controversial in this. Very straightforward, and this will not receive any opposition whatsoever when we do meet in the House next week to consider it. And next one I have is the Procurement Amendment Bill 2021, and this seems to be a clear up of some issues that have appeared in the procurement bill that have been identified over a period of time. And what the amendment bill seeks to do is to address the issue of duplication inconsistencies and gaps between the Procurement Act of 2016 and other legislation. So clearly issues have been identified in terms of conflicts with other legislation, and it seeks also to define what a business case is in terms of the whole procurement process, because that's a part of the process of any significant procurement by any government agency for that matter. So it defines what it inserts a definition of a business case, and that simply is it means a document that provides justification for undertaking a project or program to support decision making for an investment. And there are a couple of amendments there. Schedule 4 is being amended, makes a change to the responsibilities of the Public Procurement Committee, and I'm trying to get all of them. This I think is I want to make sure there's nothing that's really of significance here that would be of interest, might be of interest to the public.
And this these have been published as well, or they've just been passed to members of the Parliament?
No, these have been published. They've been gazetted. They've been in the public domain for some time.
Okay, excellent.
One amendment is really just a clear up of, very minor change here. And the word being capitalized, minutes being capitalized, it's a lowercase, that sort of stuff. So that would deal with that one. And then you have an amendment to the summary jurisdiction bill of 2021. So that amendment, this bill seeks to empower the Chief Justice to prescribe the seal of the courts and to provide for their designation of the Chief Magistrate by the Governor, and to prescribe the responsibilities of the Chief Magistrate and of the Chief Magistrate. So clearly these things were not enshrined in legislation, and so this is what this law seeks to do. So it has more to do with the operation and of the court system, and provides for the governor to designate the chief magistrate. Because basically, I think for any appointment of any justice in our court system, certainly Grand Court and Court of Appeals judges, they are appointed by him, the governor, and this one seeks to appoint the chief magistrate by the governor and to prescribe the responsibilities of that chief magistrate.
Yeah. Yep.
There is also an amendment to the Court of Appeal bill, and that is seeking to allow cases to progress to judgment in circumstances where the cases have been heard, but judgment has been reserved, and one of the justices of the appeal on the panel of 3 becomes unable to render a determination. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And the second part of it is to provide that where the rules of the court are lacking, there shall be reference to the law and practice of England only. Okay? So the first part, really, as I mentioned, I think is quite interesting, because I know that there have been cases that have come before the appeals court where there is a panel of 3 judges, and it's been heard, but it's taken them an awful long time to render judgment, and in that time, a member of the court may either have retired or he may even have passed, and that has thrown some difficulties in terms of completing cases. So this seeks to close that gap in that exists as well, to allow for things to continue for the judgments to be rendered.
So, and these amendments that should basically breeze through, fairly quickly.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be contentious in any way. Any new legislation coming forward that from a policy perspective?
Good question, OC, and the answer is, as far as we can see, no. Every piece of legislation is coming forward. They are amending. There are amendment bills to the existing ones. There is also a quite urgent bill that is coming forward, amendment to the Parliament Management Bill, and that arises and allows for the Parliament to provide for the appointment of constituency assistants. Because what had happened is that we had received legal advice that the practice of as it is right now, the constituency office assistants that are provided by Parliament, they at that moment are the employer of record. And the law does not allow for that to be the case. And so that was brought to our attention, I think, back in February, March. And so this law seeks to regularize the practice that we have for the constituency office assistants being hired by the Parliament provided for the constituents offices.
Under the parliamentary law, there were also some references in regards to the assistants to POCs. So they had not transitioned that over. So again, POCs had no authority over Parliament.
Yeah.
So it's a cleanup exercise of some irregularities that were found, and it's a very unique position. That position being just about being a politically appointed position, really. So that seeks to clarify it. But other than that, all of the legislation seems to be peripheral legislation, just tidying up of sorts and things. So.
Yeah. And then the other final one is an amendment to the Insurance Bill 2022, and that simply seeks to provide for capital redemption contracts, which obviously is some kind of insurance contract that is being provided that is offered either in Cayman or as part of the captive insurance business. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that and what exactly these is intended with this particular legislation and what's driving it. But again, just amendments to the existing bills.
Okay. Good juncture for us to take a commercial break, and then we can bring Deputy Leader of the Opposition into the conversation as well, folks. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, the conversation with the Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Roy McTaggart, and Deputy Leader and Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hugh, will continue. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
JN Money touchdown. Send the money now. Reach wow. You say you need some money. JN Money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use your money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Tortuga will be holding an employment recruitment drive on Wednesday, June 1st from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. at their 7 Mile Shops location. If you are a motivated team player seeking to grow within a fast-paced and competitive company, bring your resume along with a smile of willingness and interest. Positions range from sales representatives, warehouse crew, and drivers. The Tortuga Employment Recruitment Drive, Wednesday, June 1st from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Tortuga 7 Mile Shops location.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Roy McTaggart, Deputy Leader and Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hugh. Mr. Hugh, over to you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, O.C. I think we'll continue on the upcoming session and talk about some of the points raised or the private member motions that would be brought to the Parliament by the opposition, if given the chance, if we do get our full day on Thursday. I think the first one, O.C., I'll speak to is a private member's motion being brought by the opposition, moved by Sir Alden, on allowing background music in bars on Sundays. The public would know that over the last, or a few months ago, there was a public announcement that bars were no longer allowed to play any kind of music, soft background music or anything, on a Sunday. We realized, we went back and we looked through the laws, and in particular at this time, it really hit some of the local bars hard at a time when recovering, during COVID and trying to keep things afloat. And Sundays were as a time when bars did a decent amount of business, were allowed historically to play a little background music. We went back and went through the laws and realized that over time, the laws only referred to restaurants and hotels when it referred to Sundays. Bars were never mentioned. And recent amendments to the music and dancing law, which allowed for amendments to allow for the live music at the airport on a Sunday, at the cruise ship terminal on a Sunday, the little steel pans and things, and also at the resorts and restaurants when receiving or having receptions for conferences, international weddings, that sort of thing, to be able to have a little steel band background music. And at the time, in the latest amendment to the law, there was a decimal level attached to that background music for hotels and restaurants. Basically, the law, as we interpret it, historically, have only spoken to restaurants and hotels, and all other establishments were not allowed to play any sort of music on a Sunday. And I think, historically, as far back as I remember, everyone felt that bars were included in that, hotels and restaurants. Recently, the interpretation has been made that bars are not allowed to play any sort of music on Sundays. And so we're bringing a private member motion that asks for the government to consider amending the Music and Dancing Control Act to include licensed bars as a premises that is allowed to play background music to be enjoyed by patrons on a Sunday, providing the music should not be heard outside the boundaries of the establishment. So we're trying to fix it that we get the small locally owned bars included in what is already available to all the hotels, all the restaurants, and other establishments, but not not bars.
and background music, there would be a definition of that. Could it include a live band but playing softly, or a one or two man ensemble?
I don't. That was not the intention. On the live music was more for the airport, the port, and larger properties. But there is, in the music and dancing law, there is a provision for it that allows restaurants and hotels at the moment to have live music. Live in the sense that was one of the issues, was whether live is a DJ playing pre-recorded or live was persons actually playing instruments. Mm-hmm. There's not much difference these days.
That's true.
But yeah, and again, there is a provision in the regulations for a decimal level to be set to these laws. Mm-hmm. However, to the best of my knowledge, a decimal level has yet to be set.
Okay.
But what we're asking for here, and what our constituents and what the business the small bar community have been asking us for, is to simply allow them to play their background music from the jukebox like they've done so for decades. Mm-hmm. And that's the initial goal.
And I would just to pick up with that, OC, just say what we're seeking to do really is just level the playing field for everybody.
Yes.
And we've had representation from a number of these small bar owners that they are seeing and have seen business drop off since they were visited by, I think it was back in January, February time, by the police, and told they could not have any kind of music being played from their premises because the law did not allow it. And so that really is our focus here with it, just level the playing field, make it same for everyone.
Yeah. We saw similarly with the elections law. And after the closing of polls, there are certain establishments that were allowed. And at that time, we, obviously catering to tourists. Yes. And sometimes we end up discriminating against their own in favor of others. And this is exactly what you're talking about here now, leveling the playing field.
I think when those laws were written, there were one or two smaller hotels that didn't cover a huge complex of areas. And I specifically remember, at one point, challenges when I was heavily involved in the hospitality industry about whether a hotel under their license could play music at an off-site establishment that they own. And we knew that, Hyatt owned Rum Point. We now see Kimpton owning, bars on the beach. Yes. So these are quasi off-site, but under the same hotel license. And so I don't think when the legislation was originally written that we perceived that these things were going to happen, or, that we would have the kind of sprawling resorts that we have now and restaurants attached to it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes,
so.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to remind persons, you will let me know when you want to open up the phone lines as well.
Yeah, and because I think the next one is probably the most significant one of the two.
Yes.
You want to lead off on it? Or?
I'm happy for you to continue doing it.
So the second private member motion being brought by the member from Georgetown West, Mr. David White, and seconded by Ms. Barbara Conley from Georgetown South.
Okay.
And I think, let me just read through it. OC is the best way to do this one. So the motion has to do with the increased assistance to Caymanian home buyers. And it reads, whereas the rising cost of land and home ownership has made it increasingly challenging for young Caymanians looking to build or purchase their first home. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has made obtaining a home even more difficult given the economic downturn and the disruption to the global supply chain that has increased the cost of imported goods, including building supplies. And whereas all the above pressures on housing cost and the cost of living in general has been exacerbated by the Russian-Ukraine war, which is further driving up the cost of goods. And whereas the U.S. experienced a 8.5% inflation rate in March 2022, a 41-year high, with Cayman's domestic overall inflation rising by 7.6% over 2021, but with the housing and utilities component rising by 11.5% and expected to climb higher in 2022. And whereas in response to inflationary pressures, the U.S. Federal Reserve and the Bank of England have begun increasing interest rates, thus impacting interest rates in Cayman, which will make the cost of loans and mortgages and thus home ownership even higher for young Caymanians. And whereas the Cayman Islands government has announced a record budget surplus of some $221 million as of March 2022, which includes an effective windfall of $18.6 million more than was initially budgeted, a windfall that should allow government to reduce stamp duty to Caymanians in a meaningful way, especially for housing. And the resolutions are, be it therefore resolved that the government considers a matter of urgency amending the Stamp Duty Act as follows. And I'll slow down for these. The first-time Caymanian property home buyer, 0% duty on land only with a value up to $200,000, and for houses, apartments, or other dwelling purchases with a market value of up to CI $500,000 for owner-occupied, and B, 2% duty on the value above CI $200 on land purchases, and for houses, apartments, or other dwellings purchased for owner occupation on the value above $500,000. So you are, as a Caymanian first-time homeowner, you are stamp duty free on land up to $200,000, and then anything above $200,000 you pay 2% duty on that. And if you purchase a home above $500,000, you pay there's no stamp duty on the first $500,000, and you pay 2% stamp duty on the value over the $500,000. So this is not pigeonholing Caymanians to any specific value or home scheme.
Right. So I think it's, if I could just jump in here,
sure.
The impact of this is that every first-time Caymanian buyer will get those exemptions no matter what value of the property that they are buying. So they all get all benefit in the same way with regard to it. That's the important part of what we're asking government to do.
Now, while if I could interrupt for a second,
So
and
would you like, there's one last
sure, okay,
whereas, and then we can go back to the points. And C, in cases where the property is transferred to two or not more than 10 persons who are first-time Caymanian homeowners, 0% duty for bare land purchases with a market value of up to $350,000, and houses, apartments, or other dwellings purchases with a market value of up to $600,000 for owner occupation, and 2% duty on the value above $350,000 on raw land purchases, and for houses, apartments, or other dwellings purchased for owner occupation on the value of above CI $600,000. For properties purchased by a Caymanian that does not fall into the first-time Caymanian property home buyer scheme, we are recommending a 5% stamp duty for Caymanian persons only across the board.
Okay. Tell you what, we'll take the commercial break and then we can come back to it. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vant Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
This October, discover Peru with the Chamber Travel Club. Experience Machu Picchu, the lost city of the Incas and recognized as one of the wonders of the world. Explore the Spanish and Incan cultures and civilizations from Lima to Cusco to Aguascalientes in 10 days and 8 nights. Reserve your space for this trip of a lifetime by June 3rd to receive the early bird special and free Sacred Valley tour. Visit caymanchamber.ky or call 949-8090 for further details. This October, discover Peru with the Chamber Travel Club.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Roy McTaggart, Deputy Leader of the Opposition and Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hugh. We're currently talking about the private members' motions that are being introduced into our Parliament at the next parliamentary sitting or session. We're going to, one of my questions that I have basically again is for both of my panelists here this morning to speak to the objects and reasons for these private members' motion, in particular the one that has to do with stamp duty and property ownership. Gentlemen.
Thank you. I'll just say one quick thing and then I'll pass on to the leader as well. So the whole idea here is to make home ownership available for Caymanians, easier available, and allow Caymanians to compete in the real estate market. That is investing in the real estate market.
Right.
If we go back historically, it used to be $300,000 for a home, and for a long time, Frank Hall filled that category, but that made those homes extremely difficult to get. They couldn't build them fast enough, right? Then we moved it to $400,000, and in fact, let me not go there. Then Frank Hall was not able to, or the ability to develop homes under $300,000 was no longer there.
Yes.
So homes crept up to $350,000, $375,000, therefore not allowing Caymanians to purchase those with any duty breaks whatsoever. Then, so we increased it to $400,000 during the last administration, just before COVID. And what happened was we saw an explosion of developments in the $400,000 range. Those were quickly grabbed up by Caymanians, as many that they could, and again, driving the prices up once more, along with COVID, Ukrainian war, everything else that's happening now. I know projects that are having to stop or pull the contracts off and rebrand, recontract because they can't afford to bill for what they were proposing in the first place. So the idea behind the increase to $500,000 is obvious. The idea behind the 2% over and above that $500,000 is to allow a series of things. I think that would take the stress off of everyone fighting for the units under $500,000, because then if someone can actually afford to get a $600,000 one with the duty concession and the 2% or $650,000, then that spreads the market, and that takes some of the pressure off of the fight and the demand for those at $400,000. The second thing is...
But if I could interrupt you there for a second.
Sure.
But what if we find a situation where, for builders, the profit margin with the at 600,000 with the 2% discount that you're likely to get or that you would have to pay, that is more attractive for those contractors than the 500,000, then you may find that the concentration, is it possible to find that people are going to concentrate then on building for 600,000 and over as opposed to 500,000? I think most people would argue that where the challenges exist in Cayman today, they exist for those persons who are at the lower economic bracket in terms of their ability to own a home. You keep hearing people say, well, when my child grows up, what is going to be available for them? Will they be able to afford the property market in the Cayman Islands? That seems to be the challenge. There are those who would argue that there are some Caymanians that are more equal than others, and you know, we know that as well. So should the focus be more on those who find it more difficult? And I understand that you, while not wanting to level the playing field completely, what it has to in this sense, to me, it almost has to be tilted in favor of those who find themselves in the most challenging position.
Yeah. I think those are two different things, OC.
Okay.
So those who are most vulnerable in our community around the world, right? Those are the ones that government need to step in and provide some housing assistance to. Those are other programs we can talk about that wouldn't fall under the stamp duty.
No, but what I'm talking about the regular person, the middle class person.
Middle class. You said in the beginning. You said something.
I said they're finding it more challenging to own.
Because and I was going to say those who are most vulnerable, those who are finding it most difficult at the lower end of the spectrum. We had a ton of ideas, and I think the government, I read somewhere that they are working on and perhaps reviving some of those on how persons can achieve home ownership through government programs. Right. So in NHDT, we're not saying get rid of that.
Yeah.
At all. Those are government subsidized homes and government assisted living sort of things. This is for those, as you just said, middle-income Caymanians and those who have returned after sacrificing maybe 10 years to get their doctorate, their legal certificates and masters, whatever, and are trying to find and to take advantage of the real estate, because real estate in Cayman is an investment. It is an investment, and an investment that provides good returns as well.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do here is create an environment that will allow all Caymanians, first-time homeowners in particular, to invest in that, to be able to get their first home, to get their start. And then what we're trying to do is to spread that range that allows people to say, okay, well, this I can afford this much more, so I'm gonna buy one in this area, and also spread the range for the developers, because you're not. The issue we have right now is when developers look at it and say, okay, do I build a home for $300,000? Or, there is a market for 400,000, right? And so that's the decision the developers make.
But most likely they're going to look at their profit margin and which one is, achieved.
Your profit margin, but then your ability as well. Not everybody can build $600,000 homes because you have to put that money up front as well. Not everybody can build $1 million homes because you have to get that financing up front as well. So I think given developers who are looking. And there are a lot out there, especially, that have Caymanian developers who are saying, okay, I want to get into this market, but gosh, I can't compete with those guys in 7 Mile Beach that are building $1 million homes. And the bank won't allow me to get a mortgage if I'm building homes at $300,000, to sell at $300,000. And I think this will open up opportunities for a wider range of developments. It's in particular in the areas that let me put it this way, not along the beaches and the waterfronts that foreign investors tend to be attracted to. So this will allow us to do, rather than to find vast open lots of land that used to be available to build these sprawling $250,000 homes. This provides developers with an opportunity to say, and I know that there are a lot of them out there that are saying, how can we help with the housing market? How can we provide housing? And when they look at it, they're like, gosh, it just doesn't fit the model. It just doesn't fit the financing. It doesn't fit, and they're in business to make money, right? So we believe that this, certainly that aspect of it, will allow for, again, Caymanians to have a wider range of options in their first home, and secondly, allow for a variety of developments that Caymanians or first-time homeowners can buy into. And the second part of it, I don't want to forget too, is that we're also creating an environment for a group of young Caymanians to get together, to buy a duplex, to buy 5 apartments, to buy a big plot of land to build their homes on. So that was another thought, and that was the feedback we got when we would interact with young people about housing was, we can't even co-op. Like, we want to co-op and we want to buy 4 duplexes or 2 duplexes. There's 10 of us together, but how do we get help from the government? So that's why we put in that last piece about 2 to 10 persons, not more than 10 persons. Yeah.
Now, what about? I keep hearing, and this is sort of tied to this whole idea. I keep hearing people commenting about the number of local companies control licenses that have been granted, be it for a limited period of time, but in the construction industry to build apartments, an area that was basically usually reserved, for Caymanians, and they find themselves being squeezed out of the market now because the Caymanian who would normally be able to afford or want to develop is now being challenged and having to compete against a local company's controlled license holder.
See, this was raised in a House by, I think it was a parliamentary question by Mr. McLean, if I'm not mistaken, and by someone from the opposition. Let me not misquote. By someone in the opposition when I was minister, and we had not issued any construction LCCLs. What was brought to my attention is perhaps some of those, and the Licensing, Trade and Business Licensing Board will look at applications for an LCCL for a development, which were previously held for large-scale developments such as hotels or a hospital or something of that nature. I also found out that a lot of the developers that we might think are not Caymanian are actually Caymanian. But I did see where there were instances where persons got a license as a developer. And a developer there's 2 things I found out. Where a person got a license as a developer, and a developer in the sense of, I am investing to build these things. So I'm putting the money up, someone is going to build it, da-da-da-da. And what they were doing was using that license as a developer to run the construction site. So they would just subcontract or get subs to come in and do the work, and they were actually the contractor on site. It's a fine line. It's a very gray area. The other aspect of it, and I think the Trade and Business License Board has a broad purview on this. The other aspect of it was persons would put in for an LCCL to build 250 apartments. And they would say, we're going to build them at this price so Caymanians can own. But then they want to do phase 1, which is 25. And they do it themselves. And then the other, we gave the license thinking that we were going to get 250 apartments at this price. They build 25, and then they wait until the market rises before they build another 25 in the market. So those are the sorts of things. But I think if one were to look at recent licenses, they'll find that it's not as prevalent as believed. And we also, a lot of the people that we think are foreign investors are actually Caymanians.
Yes. Okay, we're going to go to our headline news. When we come back, I'm going to ask you for your indulgence if we can go back over that private member's motion and we sort of like treat it line by line so that people can understand exactly what it is you're trying to achieve, and we may even get some feedback here on For the Record from it as well. Folks, please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back immediately after headline news.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman. We've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Public Health reported 115 cases of COVID-19 for Sunday and Monday, bringing the estimated number of active cases to more than 1,400. There are currently 4 COVID patients in the hospital. The 7-day rolling average for Tuesday was 74. In Ukraine, U.S. President Joe Biden has pledged to send Ukraine more advanced rocket artillery systems. He said the goal was to help the country defend itself and that Washington was not encouraging Ukraine to strike beyond its borders. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has lambasted Moscow over strikes on a chemical plant in the eastern city of Severodonetsk. Those in the city have been warned not to leave bomb shelters and to prepare masks to protect against toxic fumes. And the largest known plant on Earth, a seagrass roughly 3 times the size of Manhattan, has been discovered off the coast of Australia. Using genetic testing, scientists have determined a large underwater meadow in Western Australia is in fact one plant. It is believed to have spread from a single seed over at least 4,500 years. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
For the Record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the Record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We're discussing with the Leader of the Opposition and his deputy the private members' motion that they will be presenting to Parliament when the Parliament resumes. Is it on the 8th of June?
Yes.
8th of June. So over to you, gentlemen. If we can go back over the private members' motion that's being brought by Ms. Barber and seconded by Mr. White, I think.
Well, Mr. White, bring it. And
seconded by Ms. Barber.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important we get back to the real thrust of it.
Sure.
And to put it as simply as I can, is that this is a motion asking government to amend the stamp duty law, whereby all Caymanians will benefit from an incentive, a stamp duty incentive, regardless of the cost or the price that they are paying for either for the raw land or for the home.
Yeah.
But it is for first-time Caymanian buyers only. That's what we're talking about.
All right. And for the benefit of our listeners, what currently obtains?
Do I have the originals here?
What's that?
Yeah. What currently obtains in terms of stamp duty for first-time Caymanian buyers?
Yeah, for first-time.
I got it here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
So currently, to be eligible for stamp duty, current market value purchase price of land must be 150,000 or less. So it's 150,000 for land, and it's 400,000. Current market value price of land with a building must be 400,000 or less. Current market value purchase price of land only must be 300,000 or less if there are 2 or not more than 10 first-time Caymanian property buyers.
Okay.
And then for land, it's 500 if not more than 2 or 10 first-time Caymanian.
And the reason, I think it's important for people to understand the reason for the between 2 and 10 landowners, that under the land law or land registry law, the maximum numbers of names you can have on a title is 10.
Okay.
That's something I never knew until a couple of years ago. So that's the reason for the 2 to 10.
I wonder if that was because the paper couldn't
hold it.
Why the 10?
Very possible.
Yes.
But I think the important thing is that when Joey read out what the current situation is, that's the exemption you get. Once you get above that, you get nothing. Okay, and then you are if you're
we had implemented a small range of about 50,000 on land, on 100,000, but then you pay 2% on the entire thing.
Okay.
So you didn't get any, and it was only, I'm pretty sure it was only if the land was 50,000 more, then you would get 2% duty on the entire cost.
Mm-hmm. So what do we say to those persons who may argue, those persons in the higher bracket, if they can afford to be there in the first place, why should we be giving them breaks? Maybe we should give the break.
But they're Caymanian. We are giving the break to everyone.
I understand that.
And we're allowing people to grow, or allowing Caymanians to exercise. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, you go ahead.
But it's for first-time Caymanian homeowners. And again, we talked about, I even mentioned during the break about social diversification, and not just, that's something we want to encourage Caymanians to be able to afford all these nice developments that we see. So, and again, I spoke about it being an investment, and that's exactly what it is.
It is, yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Leader.
No, that's okay. I mean, that's where we want to do is to give every Caymanian a benefit, not based on necessarily on your affordability or what you can, but everyone should be able to benefit from it, and that's the thrust of the private members' motion. So effectively, what we are asking government again for. If you're buying land, the exemption 0% duty would be payable on anything up to $200,000. And for homes, apartments, or other dwelling purchases with a market value of up to CI $500,000 for first-time homeowner occupied purchases.
Okay.
So $200,000 for land, $500,000 for a home. Your first $500,000 is exempted from stamp duty, and $200,000 for raw land. Anything above that, so on purchases of land above 200, whose value is above 200,000, then it would be 2% duty on the excess value. So if you bought a piece of land for $250,000, your first $200,000 is zero rated for stamp duty. The $50,000 excess is rated at 2%. That's the duty that it would attract. And similarly, it would be 2% for on the excess value above $500,000 for a home. So that, and then we get back into the situation of those with two or not more than 10 persons. So if a husband and wife are buying it jointly, that's the simplest example I can give you. They are getting a bit of a bump up for the fact that it is two of them. So
and both in the case of 2 or 10, they all have to be Caymanians as well.
Yes. Nothing would change in terms of the qualification for who would get this benefit. So 0% duty for bare land purchases with a market value of up to $350,000, and homes, apartments, or dwelling places with a market value of up to $600,000 for own occupation, and 2% duty on the value above $350,000 on raw land, and 2% on homes, apartments, dwellings for own occupation above $600,000.
I know, see your point that you raised earlier. We had some submissions from our members about companies if a group of young people formed a company or whatever. But all they would have to do, if we had put companies in here, a company in Cayman is a legal company in Cayman is 60% Caymanian, 40%. So all they would have to do then is to display that they're all Caymanians, and then they would be able to. One would think they'd be able to do it as a company, but we didn't want to put the word company in there because then you're actually speaking to a 60-40 situation.
Yes.
At a minimum 60-40 situation. Yeah.
Got you.
And then the final thing is for first-time property purchased by Caymanians that do not fall into the first-time Caymanian property home buyer scheme. So outside of this scheme, we're asking government to consider reducing the stamp duty for Caymanian persons only to 5% rather than the 7%.
Okay. Can you clarify that again for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for property purchased by a Caymanian that does not fall within the first-time Caymanian property home owner buyer scheme, we're asking government to consider reducing the stamp duty for Caymanian persons to 5% rather than the 7.5%.
Okay, that seems reasonable. Okay, one of the questions.
It's a competitive advantage for Caymanians over investors.
Yeah. And what if? And we spoke about this off mic when we were doing the commercial. There's been some talk and some speculation that the government may at some point in time amend the point system for permanent residence so as not to place as much emphasis on property ownership in terms of a person's ability to qualify for permanent residence, to place less emphasis on property ownership because they found it that particular provision that is in there, while it may have been useful when the Cayman Islands were underdeveloped and you wanted to encourage investment and you wanted to have those persons who were applying for permanent residence or who had permanent residence to have some skin in the game, that has changed considerably, and it is felt now that by making the market so competitive, that is one of the things that may be disadvantaging young Caymanian homeowners from, or maybe driving up the prices or driving up the costs,
or demand,
as well. So if that were to take place where the less emphasis is placed on property ownership, how would your proposals be impacted in any way?
No, I can't think of where it would be impacted because this is directed towards
Caymanian. You have to be Caymanian.
You have to be a Caymanian in order to get advantage or to get an incentive, take advantage of the incentive.
Okay. Now, any views in relation to if that were to be done, what should be put in place in terms of the point system to compensate for that property ownership?
That's a tough one, OC, because I think if there were one of the ideas behind that in the point system, if I remember correctly, was to show that the person had a commitment to Cayman. I think you can't sell it for 5 years. You can't sell the property for 5 years after receiving your status. I believe
there was a time period.
I think there's a time period. I might be wrong on the time period. But one of the interesting things is that it is just an investment. You actually don't even have to live in it. And it doesn't have to be one place. So these are things that they could tweak, because if someone decides I'm going to invest $1 million just to show that I'm committed to Cayman, they could buy three $350,000 places, not buy 1 million, and they don't have to live in either of the three. So those are some ways that they could, that they certainly could tweak that aspect of it. But without having all of the information in front of me, it would be very difficult. But it's something I've heard the government talk about and looking at. That has historically been the case. You'd have to look at how many, when you think about how many persons receive residency, to see how that really affects the amount of sales that we've had in the country. I was speaking in an interview the other day about Plan Cayman, and my experience was that where we saw the issues arising were predominantly in two areas. The boom in the Airbnb market. We had an increase at 1 year of over 20% stayover tourists without a single hotel room being added to the inventory.
Wow.
So that's all Airbnb. Then we had the economic substance legislation, which I think the EU thought would hurt our business. But in fact, people said, no, we like doing business in it. And for the listening public, economic substance legislation, in a nutshell, said, if you're going to have a company in the Cayman Islands, you have to have people there.
Yes.
You have to have some economic substance there. And companies said, okay, we like doing business in the Cayman Islands, so we will put people there. So when you put people here or hire people here, you grow in your business. So even
physical presence,
yeah, if they hire, front office and supporting staff, they still have to bring executives, etc. So they have to live somewhere. That also caused pressure on the public school, on the private schools. That was a major issue. All of a sudden, private schools had outgrown their campuses and had to react to that. So in my experience, those were the things. So, when we talk about zoning and talk about National Development Plan, that's a big part of it is when they zone that, they have to talk about no commercial activity, no tourism activity, so that when the parcels are developed, that it enters in not only into the home ownership market, but the rental market, so that, we can keep those prices down. Because what we saw was a lot of people that did long-term rentals went into the Airbnb market. It's so much more profitable. You're getting $250, $300 a night versus $1,500, $1,700 a month. And that created a huge vacuum in that very, very vulnerable market. And the people that, there are Airbnbs or vacation villas that are $10,000 a night. But majority of them are for people that are looking for a better deal than a hotel. And if hotels are at $600 and $500 a night, it's going to be the $300 and $350 a night Airbnbs, which are would have normally been in the rental pool for $1,700, $2,000 a month.
Yeah. Being removed from it. Okay, we're going to take a commercial break, folks. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Tortuga will be holding an employment recruitment drive on Wednesday, June 1st from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. at their 7 Mile Shops location. If you are a motivated team player seeking to grow within a fast-paced and competitive company, bring your resume along with a smile of willingness and interest. Positions range from sales representatives, warehouse crew, and drivers. The Tortuga Employment Recruitment Drive, Wednesday, June 1st from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Tortuga 7 Mile Shops location.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Join us on June 8th for the annual RF Economic Outlook Conference, where speakers include Dex Torok, executive at Facebook and Google, John Sidalettes, geopolitical consultant to the U.S. Department of State, Keith Herman, serial tech entrepreneur and blockchain expert, and global innovation strategist Sean Kanungo. Registration is now open. Find out more at rfeoc.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the year again, as the New Self-Help Foundation presents Gratitude, the 21st Annual Talent Exposition of the Arts, Sunday, June 26, at the Hartwell Theater. Performances by UCCI dancers, Maya Praise, Radiance Dance Studio, Andrew Rivera, May not be thunder Dream Chasers Cayman, hosted by former Miss Cayman Universe, Anika Connolly and Lloyd Barker. Part proceeds from the Talent Exposition will benefit the Pines Retirement Home. Prepaid tickets available at Funky Tanks, Winner Circle Sports. Tickets are $15, $20 at the gate. Gratitude. The 2022 Talent Exposition of the Arts, Sunday, June 26th at the Hartwell Theater. Gates open at 5 p.m. Show starts 6 p.m. Get your tickets today.
For the record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, the Leader of the Opposition and his deputy. We've been concentrating on the private members' motion that they will be introducing into Parliament on the next sitting of Parliament, the 8th of June as well. And Mr. Hugh, you made a very important observation when we were off mic again. And of course, these important things, we don't want them to remain off mic. They have to get on mic as well. And you were talking about the whole housing situation. You know, it's completely different. What you're introducing here has more to do, with stamp duty and property, but the housing market is another thing. And if we got an opportunity, if we could talk about the need for a landlord tenants legislation as well, because we hear so much of it. People have to either deal with it themselves or go through the courts as well. So during the course of your conversation, if we can touch base on those issues as well, we'd certainly appreciate it. Over to you.
Yeah, no, I think also you're completely right, and because we don't want to blur the lines. What we're talking about this morning in this is stamp duty assistance for Caymanian first-time homeowners. Housing is and housing assistance is a completely different discussion, and one that I'm happy to come back at another time to do, because we did do a lot of work. I mentioned it earlier. We did do a lot of work pre-COVID on this. It was a multi-agency committee, and it was headed up by a young man, Matthew Hilton, in the Deputy Governor's office, who was doing a fantastic job with it. And they had several roundtable discussions with industry, with utility providers, with planning, etc. And there were a slew of ideas that we could operate under the National Housing Development Trust in assisting in housing assistance and even ownership in Cayman. But that's a different thing. That's government assistance with housing and government assistance with ownership. This is stamp duty and stamp duty for Caymanians and assisting them to realize their investments or their dreams in their home. So they're two different things that at one point they'll become may become synonymous, but at the moment they're two separate things. And on the matter of the second matter was, remind me again. You raised the second matter.
Landlord tenant legislation.
No, that is absolutely needed, and it's not. A lot of times we think that it's just the tenants that are having issues, but also the landlords, because there are no clear rules. Neither landlord nor tenant have anywhere to go. If they go to the police say it's a matter of the courts. You go to the courts, it's a long process and not a very clear one. So there is desperate need for some attention to be paid to that. I agree 100% there.
Mm-hmm. Now, we say a lot of the landlord-tenant issues sometimes are created by persons who are on work permits as well. Mm-hmm. Now, we know that when an application is made, that accommodation sheet that is also provided in terms of the accommodation and everything, that there's a certain amount of undertaking that is done by the prospective employer, because the prospective employer or the employer, when they do get the work permit, who then becomes the employer, has certain responsibilities. And whether or not any legislation that we look at or propose to introduce may tie the employer into that, make them a partner of sorts into that whole conversation, so that at the end of the day, the landlord may have some recourse if the employer also has some skin in the game. I'm going to use that term again, some skin in the game. Because, for instance, you have a landlord who's having issues with a tenant. Legally, they can't go to the employer of that person and say, I'm having problems with your employee because they're either not paying their rent or they're not, they have destroyed my property or whatever. And other than ensuring that the person has suitable accommodations in the Cayman Islands, I believe that is the extent that any employer is held liable.
And
do we need to bring the employers into the conversation when we look at that legislation?
Well, I would say yes. That certainly needs to be looked into. But I think I just see it fraught with difficulties to try to bind an employer into in areas where they probably have no business being involved in. But
even though,
to me, it's worth the conversation, even if it is just a 2-minute conversation no, that's not going to work.
And what we're finding now also is that a lot of employers, those with the financial wherewithal, they're the ones who are investing in the property market, in the apartments and condos, and actually putting their staff up in those. I don't know if it's for free or at,
Yeah, I think some of the or dormitory style places, but I think it's a transition. A lot of people do it as a transition area. When they first come in, you got 6 months or a year to find somewhere else, and then they put new staff in.
Okay.
It's that's a tough one for bigger companies. I mean, if you think about some of the supermarkets and hotels with 400 or 500 staff, I mean, how do you? And then you go and you inspect the place they're going to live in. And then they move out 1 month later, you have no clue. It's a very difficult one, very difficult.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I mean, I recall post-Ivan, we actually did it, the firm that I was managing partner of, we actually rented a slew of apartments for a time because of there was just nothing available. And so we did stuff and housed people there until they could find their own accommodations. Mind you, part of the agreement was we put them there that they paid us back what we were renting for.
Okay.
So they did cover, we did recover the cost from them. It wasn't something that we just did, and gave it to them for free. But yeah, I mean, that was unique circumstances. But I'm aware that there are some too today that still do that have some accommodation that they provide and rent to their staff.
Okay. Now, Mr. Leader, as an accountant, I'm going to ask your opinion on this one. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. It appears as if the Fed in the U.S. may, again, up the interest rate. Yeah. That is likely to happen. What impact would that have on the Cayman Islands?
Well, good question, O.C. In fact, I was, this morning, I was getting ready to come here. Speculation now that the Feds will now do at least 2 50 basis point increases before possibly pausing to see what effect that it has and see what it is, because there is extreme pressure, I think, on the Feds to bring inflation under control, and this is one of the weapons that they use in order to do that. Now, we need to understand that what we are talking about is what in the U.S. is the Fed funds rate. That is the rate at which the banks in the Federal Reserve System pay each other for money that they borrow and lend to each other in order to meet their ratios on a daily basis. So it's a very active thing. So that is the main, the main interest rate that is set by the Feds, right? And a host of other interest rates for mortgages, all sorts of loans and credit type things are based on. And in the mortgage market, the mortgage rate generally is the Fed funds rate plus the plus 325 basis points, or 3.25%.
Okay.
And so that's how that tends to be the base, that what they would call a prime lending rate for commercial banks, for mortgages and stuff like that. And so from that, banks in offering interest rates will, for their best customers, it'll be at prime, or it may be prime plus a quarter, prime plus a whatever. That's how they go about setting their rates. Now, here in Cayman, we have always followed the lead of the U.S. and our rates, because our currency is tied at a fixed exchange rate. We follow the prime lending rate of the U.S. so that there is no arbitrage between borrowing in U.S. dollars or CI dollars. So there's no differential. Yeah. So every time the Feds raise their rates, the commercial banks in the U.S. are going to automatically raise their prime lending rate. So that means the prime lending rate here in Cayman is going to rise as well. Historically, the commercial banks here in Cayman, clearing banks, all used to operate in unison. They would put them up on the same date. That has been abandoned in recent years, and it's up to each bank as to when they change their rates. And so you will see one bank will, the day that the Feds, adjust the interest rates, the next day you're going to see an ad, and they're advising customers that the rates are increases. Others take 5, maybe 10 days, 7, 10 days to do so. So that basically is how so the bottom line is interest rates are going to go up on all sorts of lending and borrowing, and that will impact housing here in Cayman and mortgages, because that mortgage is arguably the single largest purchase that any family will make in their lifetime, and it's extremely important, and even as the banks here in Cayman don't like to and don't generally offer a fixed rate mortgage. It's going to be a variable rate mortgage. So it's going to be based on US dollar prime, and it's going to vary as the prime. It's going to be on Cayman Islands prime or US prime, whether it's in US or CI dollars, but it's going to vary as the prime rate varies.
Okay. Now, and I'm going to go to commercial break, but I'm going to tease this question, and we do have one question from someone off air as well. But we saw what the cost of the increased cost in materials, building materials, what that has done to the construction market in the Cayman Islands. If we get another rate increase again as well, what are some of the safeguards that we can try to put in place to impact that? You've spoken about, persons' loan portfolios going up, their obligations to their lending institutions possibly going up as well, and any advice that you would give to lenders if they find themselves in a difficult situation, how they should approach it before they find themselves getting in difficulty. And then someone wanted to know whether or not, when we look at the whole issue of work permits in the Cayman Islands, whether it is time for us to abandon the rollover system that we have. They haven't suggested what we should put in place to replace it, but whether or not we should relook at the rollover system if we're going to be looking at the whole issue of permanent residence and possibly Caymanian status as well. So we'll take that commercial break. When we return, that conversation will continue. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
At Doctor's Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctor's Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
JN Money touchdown. Send the money now. Reach wow. You say you need some money, JN Money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use a money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the Toyota Corolla Cross, now at Vant Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Tune in every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Midday Newscast. Radio Cayman, the people's station, your trusted official source for the latest news. The 12 p.m. news is proudly brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach.
For the record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, the Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Roy McTaggart, Deputy Leader and Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hugh. We are basically talking about economic conditions. We earlier heard the private members' motions and that they will be introducing into Parliament on the next sitting starting on the 8th of June. And before they leave, I'm going to ask them one more time to sort of like go over those private members' motion as well. Meanwhile, we're sort of like dealing with some queries that we had, one having to do with interest rates. And we know that persons have made commitments to financial institutions in terms of, you know, what their interest rates that they would be paying, depending on the type of loan that you have. It's likely to affect you one way or the other. So, Mr. Leader, over to you with that. You're the financial
All right.
man.
Thank you so much for that. And I think the thrust of your question was to me, OC, with regard to people who do have mortgages and who find themselves in a situation where, you know, the rates have gone up and, you know, payments, monthly payments do go up, or other circumstances where they might find themselves in difficulties with servicing their mortgage. I would just preface everything I say with this statement, that my advice to anybody who has a mortgage, every month, make sure that money is set aside to pay it first and foremost, because the last thing you want to do is put yourself and your family in jeopardy. Many people just wait till the mortgage comes around and then there's a scramble to find the money to pay it. Set that money aside every time. Now, I recognize that times, circumstances change, and people do find themselves in difficulty. And the single biggest thing that you can do to try and help mitigate the difficulty that you have is to speak to your bankers. Do not ignore them. You do so to your own peril. And what I would say, OC, is that yes, banks have your mortgage, but they don't want your home. They don't want to evict you. They don't want to be landowners. They're not landowners. They're bankers. They're in the business of lending money and making money from doing that. So bankers want to see you succeed as well, and they will discuss your situation, and they will do things to help you through a difficult time in order to make sure your loan remains current and that you're able to continue to servicing your mortgage. You can think about things and discuss with your banker about getting, a payment holiday. You can talk to them about doing an interest-only payment, You can all sorts of things you can get creative with in terms of trying to alleviate and to mitigate the risks and the problems that you face. And banks are willing to do that. And that would be the best advice that I could give to anyone. What you have essentially is a contract between you and the bank, and people just can't think that they can walk away from their mortgage and not lose their home. They have signed a contract to do it, and the money has to be repaid. And if you can't do it yourself, the bank is going to have to take that property, sell it to realize the value of the mortgage and to settle the mortgage.
And that may not still let you off the hook either.
That's where I was going to next. Because if they foreclose and if they sell that property for less than what the mortgage amount is, they're coming back for you to pay the rest.
Yes.
So don't think that you get off the hook. It's a debt that you must satisfy and must repay.
Yep. Mr. Hugh, the question in relation to the continued need for the rollover policy, whether or not it should be abandoned, and if it were, what should it be replaced with?
That's $1 million question. I don't think it can. We certainly can review it and things. Since laws have passed, so much has changed in Cayman. And so it certainly needs reviewing. I don't think we can abandon it just from the perspective of how we got there, where we were told that persons need some idea of their tenure here. You can't just leave people hanging and not have a stop date to say, you have an opportunity to apply for residency or this is when you have to leave. And so, I don't know if the UK leaving the EU will have any bearing on that, but I doubt it. I think the human right aspects of it will still stand, but I certainly do believe it requires not just at this time, but it should require review every couple of years as things do change so quickly.
Okay. Now, Ms. Susan, since we took that late commercial break, you want us to break now? Or, we're going to take a commercial break now. When we return, we go right straight through until 10 o'clock. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Are you feeling sick, but don't feel ill enough to go to the doctor? Ask your pharmacist for advice. Here at West Bay Pharmacy, our pharmacists have been trained to offer helpful, easy-to-understand advice on the treatment of everyday minor ailments for yourself and all the family. Anything from headaches, cough and sore throat, to cold sores, our pharmacists will know when medical help is needed and will not hesitate to refer you to your doctor if your symptoms demand it. Like doctors, our pharmacists have a professional code, which means all personal information you give them will be treated in the strictest confidence. Visit us today at West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Tortuga will be holding an employment recruitment drive on Wednesday, June 1st from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. at their 7 Mile Shops location. If you are a motivated team player seeking to grow within a fast-paced and competitive company, bring your resume along with a smile of willingness and interest. Positions range from sales representatives, warehouse crew, and drivers. The Tortuga Employment Recruitment Drive, Wednesday, June 1st from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Tortuga 7 Mile Shops location.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning, folks, and welcome back to For the Record. We're on the last leg of the show this morning with the Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Roy McTaggart, and Deputy Leader of the Political Opposition and Member of Parliament, Mr. Joey Hughes. So, gentlemen, I'm going to throw the mic over to the both of you.
Yeah, thank you, O.C. We're just before we get back to the upcoming Parliament, I just wanted to raise one concern on behalf of some folks. And I know Mr. Bryan, Minister Bryan likes to listen in when we're here. But there seems to be some disparity or some lack of communication within the government on their policy on COVID recovery in the tourism sector. I read this morning a press release saying that the Premier had announced that water sport operators with expired wildlife interaction zone permits, when they apply for their new license before the 31st of July, will have their fees waived in an effort by the Cayman Islands government to support the economic recovery of operators impacted by COVID-19 impact. So I read that this morning, but tenants of the Tourism Attraction Board received a letter yesterday saying that on last Friday, the board decided that they will have to start paying rent today. And sent along with it saying, letter attached memo referring to resumption of rent payment checks and sorry for the short notice. So it doesn't make sense if a tourism product, if you're waiving the fees for one segment of the product, why are you rushing to implement fees with 1 day's notice, rentals and with 1 day's notice? So I just wanted to raise that. Hopefully someone in the government is listening. I'm sure it's just a matter of miscommunication or not communicating timing. What is the government's policy on this? But I'm speaking specifically for the Tourism Attraction Board. I know that persons at the Hell site received that notice. I don't know about the others, but perhaps someone in the government may want to look into that.
Okay. I was going to say, I just echo as well, because I had received representations yesterday as well with regard particularly these sites that, that's to me it's just particularly harsh to people. You tell them one day, give them less than 24 hours notice that they're going to have to start paying rent again. When you know that the tourism, it's still, yes, we have tourists back here, but it is, I talk to people and they tell me that the earnings that they're getting from the industry right now is still falling so far short of what they had been accustomed to, and I understand that.
It'll take them some while to get.
And I've said all along, OC, when tourism opens, we're going to need to continue to provide assistance to the market and to our tourism providers for some time, even if it is at a reduced level, to continue to do so, because they are recovering and it's not happening overnight. And one thing I just haven't seen, I would just raise it here perhaps, I don't know if it's been published, but what are the numbers? I don't recall seeing any tourism numbers in terms of numbers of tourists since we reopened the island to tourists. Be interesting to see what the numbers are, because I think that gives us an indication now of how big the problem is.
I think that the minister was on with me this morning for half an hour, and I believe he had some figures with that, but because of the limited amount of time, he wasn't able to share with us. I'm not sure. I'm sure that they will probably put that out in a news release at some point in time. While before the show ends, one of our listeners, and you can include this in your presentations, because I think you're going to go over the some of the PQs, the parliamentary questions that you're putting forward as well. This person says, please ask your progressive panelists whether they would support abolishing permanent residence and status on on the grounds of residence only. That would be status on the grounds of residence only, and replace it with another form of security of tenure for key expatriate workers.
Tough question. The overriding concern, I think, has been OC, and you can talk about replacing, removing it and replacing it, but what are you replacing it with? Because you have obligations as a country. I know, the big part of the issue for us when this was put together with the point system and the time periods involved, it was to a large part being driven by international obligations that we had, is that you have long-term residents, you must give them a pathway to citizenship. And
but in this case, citizenship would be British Overseas Territory citizenship, and maybe one of the options would be you limit it to British Overseas Territory citizenship, and not link the granting of Caymanian status with that British Overseas Territory citizenship. So maybe that's the point where you could then separate status and say we're only going to be granting Caymanian status on grounds of descent, possibly, and on grounds of marriage, and say your permanent residency will take you up to British Overseas Territories, becoming a British Overseas Territory citizenship. Because while status is akin to citizenship, it would mean that we have two types of citizenships in the Cayman Islands, and that shouldn't be. So maybe one of the options would be not link resident BOTC with the acquisition of Caymanian status.
But
that's just my view.
You used to be able to get naturalized at one stage without status.
Yeah, and you still can.
You still can. But I don't know whether that, interesting thought, I don't know whether the UK will allow that, whether it will allow you to differentiate those or not continue on from receiving that, because you're receiving that BOTC citizenship based on tenure here, right?
On your permanent residence only.
On your permanent residency.
And
so
that is, and they legislate for that, whereas they have left us to the part that deals with Caymanian status. They have left that to our own devices, our own local legislation. But still, whether or not any change would be assented to by the UK in that regard. But gentlemen, we have about 10 minutes left.
Yeah, the second aspect, the writer did have a second part to that. And that in itself, he talked about key persons, but remember now that was challenged, and we actually had to take that out.
Yeah, key employee.
Key employee and nationality. So you can't discriminate based on position, earnings, or nationality.
Right. Yeah. No, I think. That discussion for another time.
Absolutely.
Over to you, gentlemen.
All right. Finally, I just use the last few minutes that we have here this morning, talk a little bit we have quite a number of parliamentary questions that we have filed and that we're hoping will be dealt with by the government and get aired in the House next week. I'm asking the Deputy Governor question on the investigation into the leak of that Auditor General's report. Want to know whether that investigation into the source of the leak had been completed, what the outcome was. I do think it's important for the country to know what that was. So we have asked, filed a question in that regard. I'm asking the Premier question into the report that was commissioned of the Auditor General with regarding to the procurement procedures regarding the lateral flow tests. That I know has quite a bit of public interest in it, and asking for outcome and when will it be published. Now, next, I've got a question now for the Minister of Tourism regarding the business case with regard to the recent arrangement with the fashion firm Laudy Vidney to produce these bespoke custom leather goods to promote Cayman tourism, and asking him to table a copy of the business case, make it public, seeking information on the cost of the arrangement and what is the expected return on the investment and the duration of the sponsorship agreement with them. Just like to understand more about it and understand what was driving it. Secondly, ask a similar question with regard to the business case regarding the arrangements with the Portsmouth Football Club in the UK that we ended up into in where they are supposed to promoting Cayman tourism, looking for a copy of the business case, and cost of the sponsorship and duration of the sponsorship. I don't think much of the details surrounding it have actually been published with regard to it, and just like to know, what's going on. And then I'm also got a question for the Minister for Infrastructure regarding the reports that and the stories with regard to provide the House with the facts as they are now known regarding the topsoil or fill that was the property of the Housing Development Trust that was moved off of their property, and whether the investigation has started, when will it be, and when will it be concluded, and seeking assurances as well that it will be made public as soon as it is completed, because that one I think has caused quite a bit of stir in the country surrounding it. Then I've also got one for the Minister of Financial Services seeking further clarity and information update on overseas offices. What's happening? We got places rented. We still got these people employed, and what are they doing? And asking importantly, does the financial services industry still support it? Because we consider it quite urgent, that there's an urgent need for these offices overseas. Then Sir Alden has a question regarding of the Attorney General, asking him to how many Caymanians are currently undertaking articles of clerkship, and how many we have now seeking to obtain articles of clerkship. And a second question by him, asking him to advise what is preventing the commencement of the Legal Services Act. That was passed by our administration, I think it was September 2019 or 2018. It's been a good 3 years. And so when was that going to be commenced? Sir Alden also has one for the Minister of Planning. Give us an update on the status of the work on the Eddie Sanchez Memorial Park in Red Bay. And again, Sir Alden has one for the Minister for Social Development, asking him to provide Parliament with an update on funding for housing repairs for constituents desperately in need of assistance. This is the emergency home repairs and other home repairs as well, following Tropical Storm Grace. And then Ms. Barbara Connolly she is asking the Minister of Education what action she has taken or plans she intends to bring in light of the serious concerns raised by Office of Education Standards with regard to their they undertook some thematic visits to public schools, and there were issues raised regarding the loss of learning during the COVID and what steps that they are taking to address that. Asking the Minister of Education to provide an update on the timetable for the introduction of the new national curriculum to cover all students at all levels in our school system. Again, another one for the Minister of Education for asking for an update on the implementation of her plans to improve and extend early years education. Another one asking the Minister whether she intends to update the current Special Education Needs Code of Practice to ensure that it meets current best practice. And those are the PQs that we have. I know we don't have time to really discuss any of them in any detail, but
and
that's what's on the agenda.
They have all been accepted by the Speaker, and
yes, they have been.
And so you expect them to be dealt with during that period of time.
Yes.
Hopefully so. Okay, we have about a minute and a half for closing comments.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, OC. Just to say again, I want to remind people that we are expecting quite a bit of rain over the next couple of days, and to please be prepared for that. Be prepared for gust of high winds, so have your candles, your batteries, your flashlights, just in case of power outages. And make your yards ready. Remove light stuff that could end up being debris flying around or damaging cars and homes. And please be safe on the roads, and just be safe over the next few days. And as much as possible, and where the weather allows it, have a wonderful and enjoyable long Jubilee Queen's birthday weekend.
Yep.
I'll just pick up where he's left off and just say it's going to be a very special weekend, and encourage everyone to get involved with the celebrations and activities that are taking place over the weekend. Unfortunate that we had to postpone the air show, but it is what it is, and they've indicated they're going to try to reschedule that. So I knew it was, to me, it would have been one of the highlights of the weekend, and I know people were eagerly anticipating it. So everyone, please get out and enjoy the festivities and the celebrations this weekend, and let's keep it safe as well.
Yep, and follow the news in the event that anything else changes as far as those plans and the events are concerned as well. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here this morning, folks. I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to Worthy Charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. So I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. John Sterling, Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk today. As usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands. And For the Record, we'll be back 1 week from today, next week, Wednesday. God bless. Please stay safe.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And JN Money.
From abroad to yard.
Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctor's Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctor's Hospital. Always there for you. Call 949-6066.
Radio Cayman. The voice. The heart. The soul of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your